Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 101 of Crunch Time. I'm going to be your host for today's episode. I am Tanner Dizzle, and unfortunately, today we are on Zoom once again. I am not at the studio, aka our apartment, but of course, on Zoom, I am joined by Sam Gotzi. Sam, how are we doing today?
Man, I am doing good. Exciting weekend last weekend. Topped off by a crazy Monday night football game, which we'll dive into later. But football season's here, and I can't be more excited, man.
Yeah, and we've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks about football season. Well, this is the first time we can say it's fully back. There is games on Thursday. There are NFL games on Thursday. There are college games throughout the week. We got action. We got Monday Night Football. We got Sunday Night Football. We got a full weekend slate. It is just so awesome to see. But before we get into all of that, we of course are going to start with our winners and losers. Sam, who do you have as your winner of the episode?
Yeah, my winner of the episode is the one and only Novak Djokovic. Defeated Danili Medvedev. Nailed.
Nailed it.
Uh,
Nailed it.
in 3 sets in the U.S. Open final. Now you're probably wondering why is that such a big deal. He basically solidified himself as one of the greatest tennis players of all time because this win marked his 24th major singles title, which became the most by any player of the Open era and ties Margaret Court's longest staying record for most in tennis history. So one more and he's kind of the GOAT, and it's going to be hard to say otherwise.
Was gonna say that sounds pretty goaded to me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you can say about Novak Djokovic. I don't know if you saw our boy Kyrie Irving was loving the Djokovic win because
Yeah.
they may share some political views on some things, but that was kind of funny to
Yeah.
see. Yeah, I mean,
I did
Novak,
see that.
an absolute beast. My winner of the episode is going to be Travis Kelce. Now he's commonly a winner because of his play on the field, but this is an off the field thing. Of course, he has that injury to start the season, didn't play last week against the Lions, but apparently Travis Kelce gave his phone number to Taylor Swift, and they are reportedly hanging out. So that is news now. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are hanging out. And I mean, how can you not make that your winner? The dude is just got Riz.
Riz. I mean, this dude's winning at life, man. I mean, he gets to play with
He's got
one of the greatest coaches of all time in Andy Reid, one of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in Patrick Mahomes. He's the best tight end in the NFL right now and is in the conversation for of all time. He has one of the best sports podcasts out there with his brother, New Heights. He's been in multiple Super Bowls. And now to top it off, he is dating Taylor Swift,
I was
hanging
gonna
out
say, they're
with
hanging out.
Taylor Swift. So yeah, he's kind of winning at this whole life thing.
Yeah, he sure is. Um, yeah, I got nothing else to add there. Dude seems like he is absolutely living the life, but we're gonna switch it up now. Of course, we got to go on to the negative side of things. Sam, who is your loser?
Yeah, there were a lot of options for losers this week. But the one I'm gonna go with is the one that occurred on Monday night, and I'm not even gonna talk about Aaron Rodgers, but does have to deal with his unfortunate injuries for 4 snaps in on Monday night, and that is to the customers of Jack's American Pub in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this bar in Wisconsin ran a promo. Their promo was that the customers drink free if the Jets lose against the Bills. Well, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. They start running up the tab. expensive drinks, buying drinks, buying drinks, buying drinks because everybody thinks it's on the house, right? Nope. They had some expensive bills to pay at the end of the night after an crazy, crazy Monday night football game. But yeah, customers at Jack's American Pub definitely a big loser this week.
Dude, I got a few things. I mean, obviously, anything that has to do with Packers fans, I probably hate it, right? But this is elite level hating. You got to tip your cap, right?
Yeah,
I feel like this is something that fans of other NFC North teams would do. Would be like, hey, when this team loses, everybody drinks free. That's just top tier hating.
yeah,
You got to give it to them, and of course, that's hilarious.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, got to pay a huge tab and also watch the Jets win without Aaron Rodgers. Tough scenes over in Milwaukee. My loser of the episode is going to be an announcer because we had another person decide to say some way out of pocket stuff on the air. And this person was Pete Souza. He's an announcer for the SEC network, and he was announcing
So
the
wild.
end. And Kentucky has a running back by the name of Ray Davis. And this was the quote from Pete Souza. He said, he's a guy transferring over from Vanderbilt 9 months ago. When he jumped in the portal, everybody wanted him. 11 years ago, as a foster kid, nobody wanted him. And now he is here, or now here he is. He's found some love, found football, and he's had an amazing journey.
Like, what were you thinking, bro?
I don't know, man. I just
Like,
can't.
I want to know how his brain is churning during that moment. Like, what makes you say that?
You
I
know,
mean, I
this is
kind of get what he's going with, but like,
he definitely meant well. That's the thing about this, right? He definitely
yeah,
meant, but
definitely.
not like that at
Yeah,
all.
no, it was bad,
It
but
was
it
bad.
was funny.
It
Funny.
was funny. It was very funny. However, he is the loser. He's probably going to lose his job, and which this made me think. Do you remember the Gus Johnson, J.K. Dobbins
Yeah,
quote?
yeah.
This made me think of that, man. Just like people are like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Um, who knows? But J.K. Dobbins, of course, could also be a loser with another massive injury.
Yeah,
Prayers out,
definitely.
prayers to our boy J.K. Dobbins, and I guess we'll throw some Aaron Rodgers' way as well. But we'll get into all of that in a second. But before we get to the NFL side of things, we're of course going to start out in college. The one bad thing, we have week 0 and week 1 in college when it's the only one that's going on. You have a few headliner games, but you're just so
Yeah.
excited. Football's and week 2 NFL comes back, and the college games kind of get a little bit worse. So there's not a ton of good games to talk about, but we'll start. Anybody who's watched the show or listened to the show knows we got to start with our Hawkeyes because we had the Cyhawk Trophy game in Ames this weekend. Iowa traveled up to Ames and took down the Cyclones 20-13. Sam, do you have any particular thoughts on the way this game shook out?
Yeah, this game kind of went as expected. I mean, I personally thought it was going to be a lot more low scoring. I think the both of the offenses in week 1 didn't really impress me a whole lot. And I was always known for their lockdown defense. And then Iowa State has a good defense this year. So I thought it was going to be a low scoring, just a slugfest. But Iowa played well. I mean, I do think you eliminate a couple plays. This is a very low scoring game. Obviously, that pick six was really the game changer in this one. Our running game finally got going. That was nice to see. Jazian Patterson broke off that big run. 59 yards. Looked good doing it. Kind of needs to hit the speed burners because he got caught. But it was a good win, but I feel like this game should have been 24-3, honestly, Tanner. Rocco Brecht looked terrible. So lot of nothing was impressive about this game, to be honest with you, Tanner. At least from my point of view.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right on that. I mean, the pick six, obviously, I mean, it was a 7 point game. Pick six, big moment in that game. Crazy ball don't lie moment. The play before that, Cade McNamara had thrown an interception where uh, Nico Ragaini got absolutely manhandled top of his route. The pass got picked, and there was no penalty call. But honestly, there was just a little bit more of the same from the Utah State game where Iowa comes out piping hot. They get on the board, feels like they really have control of things. Then the offense goes to sleep a little bit. The other team climbs back in it. Again, makes it a little bit of a game, but it never really feels like it's a game. And I mean, it's hard to worry about that right now when you're just controlling these games, and from start to finish for the most part, and conference play doesn't start for a little bit, and you're
Yeah.
playing these non-conference lesser opponents, but it can start to get concerning quick, right?
Yeah.
And if you dive into the offensive stats right here, I mean, Iowa State outgained Iowa 290 to 235. They outpassed Iowa 203 to 123. Iowa only had 123 yards through the air. Iowa State had 19 first downs and Iowa had 9. Um, so that doesn't really tell the tale of a team that kind of dominated a game like it felt like. But
Yeah.
again, it's the Iowa way, right? The team doesn't dominate anything, especially on the offensive end. And I love how one of the main things we're talking about here is how there were more points scored than we thought. There were 33 points scored.
Yeah. The under still hit.
I'm sure the entire stadium, including the players, were all on it. The under hit, but we're talking about how there was more scoring than expected. So that's just the unfortunate world we live in. But just another good win for the Hawkeyes. Another one that the scoreboard looks closer than it actually was, and the defense, even though it is without Noah Shannon and will be for the rest of the season, is looking every bit as advertised and looks like an Iowa defense that we'd expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say on the Iowa State side of things, they were driving late in the fourth and they were chewing clock. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, terrible.
this was when they went down and scored, right? And I was at the game. They did not let the clock, they did not hike the ball above 10 seconds left in the play clock. So if they do manage their time better, are we talking a different outcome? I don't think so, but it's definitely going to be a question the Cyclones are asking themselves this week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, it was frankly awful clock management.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, by Iowa State, and
I mean, Iowa State fans started booing.
they started booing, and rightfully so.
Oh yeah, for sure.
At that point, and there was less than 5 minutes on the clock. Iowa State was in the red zone. They were huddling up, as you said, Sam, waiting for the play clock to dwindle below 10 seconds. Just again, boneheaded plays. Don't really understand it at all. And yeah, Iowa State fans were not happy, and deservedly so. And again, you're saying, does that change the outcome? Well, maybe the play clock is a little bit more open. They get the ball down 7 instead of with a minute and a half left because they let the clock run.
Yeah.
Back with 2.5, maybe 3 minutes back, and you can open things up a little bit with the run game and kind of not be so one-dimensional. And maybe things would have gone differently for Iowa State. So you can't really blame anyone but Matt Campbell on that one.
Yeah.
I would be very
bad.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But moving on, we're going to talk about the other big game, the other, like the game we just talked about was anywhere near as big one we will talk about. That is Texas traveling to Tuscaloosa and taking on the Tide. This was the headliner. This was the game day game. And Texas takes care of business, getting the biggest win in the college football seasons thus far, taking down the Tide 34 to 24 on the road.
Yeah, this game was impressive. There's no sugarcoating it. Um, it's Texas back.
Dude,
People are wondering. Um, I will say though, like people are calling this a giant upset. I mean, we saw what Quinn Ewers and Texas did last year in Austin. Um, they probably would have won that game if Quinn Ewers didn't go down. Let's be honest. We talked about last episode. We were like, if this game was in Austin, we'd pick Texas. Unfortunately, all three of us didn't go with our gut, and we all picked Bama 0 for 3. Um, but when you were playing a hell of a game, making a that was kind of early season Heisman moment. I mean, 24 for 38, 349 yards, 9 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 interceptions. Um, Quinn Ewers looked good. Alabama did. A lot of questions surrounding Alabama. Are teams just catching up with him? Is Nick Saban kind of not being able to bring in a new offensive defensive coordinator every year and compete for national championships? Now, I know it's super early. I don't think they're out of the running yet. I think they can go win the SEC championship and they're going to be in the college football playoffs. But there's a lot of questions surrounding this Alabama team. Um, I mean, Jalen Milrow, however you say his name, didn't look impressive. 2 interceptions, um, just costly turnovers. But I mean, I'm not gonna say Texas didn't handle it. Quinn Ewers again, can't say enough about the guy. Put the team on his back. Finished the job that wasn't his to finish last year, and that definitely I think gave him a chip on his shoulder in this one.
absolutely. And also, if you remember in that game in Austin, there was that kind of BS roughing the passer call that negated a safety, which was a possible turning point in that game for Texas that the refs came in and called in favor of Alabama. But yeah, I mean, this Texas offense looks very dangerous at the moment. Of course, Quinn Ewers, the headliner. I had him in one of my long shots to win the Heisman. I think this guy's as good as it gets right now in college football. But I also want to bring attention to a trio of wide receivers on the Texas side of things: Jatavion Sanders, Adonai Mitchell, and Xavier Worthy. Sanders put in 114 yards himself. Adonai Mitchell is no stranger to the Tide. Sam, do you recognize that name at all?
Yeah, it rung a bell. Let me guess, former Alabama.
He was actually a former Georgia wide receiver.
Oh,
The go-ahead touchdown. If you remember the national championship game, the first one Georgia won over Alabama. Um, that pick six that Bryce Young threw put the game
yeah,
up, but Georgia was winning by that point, and it was a go-ahead touchdown by Adonai
yep,
Mitchell
yep.
in the national championship game. So this guy's no stranger to the Tide. He put in 2 touchdowns himself, and then Xavier Worthy added another 75 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, this Texas passing game looks incredibly strong, and I can't remember seeing a Alabama defense look this leaky.
Yeah.
One more thing I have to bring your attention to from the Alabama side of things: 10 penalties for 90 yards. When's the last time we saw an Nick Saban way
Yikes. I didn't see that stat.
in a game? Uh, yeah, something tells me their practice right after that was a little rough to
Yeah.
kind
Good
of be
maybe.
just maybe, but yeah, just not the Nick Saban way. And as you said, they're not done. They're not eliminated. They can absolutely run the table. It just became an uphill battle though, and
Yeah.
that's something you didn't want, especially having who many people believe are the best team in college football in your conference. So
Definitely.
that's going to wrap it up for our college football conversation. We will now move on to the NFL because we got week one, Sam.
Yeah. It's a fun one.
Week one of the NFL. It was absolutely
Well,
awesome. We saw a ton of crazy moments. Now, we thought we could just talk about each game, kind of like we just did in the college football segment. But we thought that might get a little boring. We've done that in the past, and it's fun for us. But we thought maybe we can make it more fun. So what we're gonna do for our NFL segment is we're gonna start. Of course, we got to start on the positive things, right? We're gonna start with the excitement meter, and I'm gonna give you a team that either had a big win or a good performance or something like that in week one. And I want you to tell me 1 to 10 how excited they should be from their week one performance and what the hype should be surrounding fans of that team and that team in general. So uh, let's get right into it. We will start, of course, with the most dominant performance on Sunday. And we may or may not have a fan of this team as a host of the pod. Of course, that
yeah.
is Cowboys, Sam's favorite team. Oh, and they went into the Meadowlands and beat the living piss out of the New York Football Giants, 40-0. Sam, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited should Cowboys fans be? What should the hype be for this Cowboys team?
I
And what?
mean, how can it not be a 10 coming off a 40-point victory? I mean, we saw the Giants last year take down the Vikings in the playoffs. They look good. This is not a team that's like the Cardinals where they're obviously in tanking, and the Cowboys came out and whooped that ass. There's no sugarcoating it. I mean, Micah Parsons, I think they had like 7 sacks. Daniel Jones looked like he was in a 10-round boxing fight with Mike Tyson. Um, they they broke kind of a lot of records this year. In this game specifically, no team before the Giants did this lost 40-0 or worse. Lost the sack battle 7-0 or worse. Lost a turnover battle 3-0 or worse. Had a blocked field goal returned for a touchdown and threw a pick six. So
That's
that's insane. Um, there is concerns on the offense. I don't think Dak Prescott looked very good, given it was monsooning outside. But he did just enough. 13 for 24, 140, 30. Most importantly, no picks. But then get in the end zone as well. I'm fine with that. Let Tony Pollard score, and he did. But this defense, one of the best in the NFL. Micah Parsons, Stephon Gilmore is another huge pickup. Love that pickup. Little veteran presence. My guy Trayvon Diggs getting a pick in there. It was an utter ass whooping, and I'm excited. 10 for sure for me on the excitement meter. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. We got a tough schedule ahead. Got a little easier next week, but we can't look over how good that Jets defense is next week.
fair. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely all valid. I think if for me, my height meter, I'm gonna go a 9. And the only reason why you kind of touched on it, the offense, like obviously they didn't need to be good today, right? They
Yeah,
didn't need to. I'm not saying the offense was bad. I'm not saying that like they did exactly what they needed to do, but I would, if I'm a Cowboys fan, I would be more excited. I'd be more impressed if the offense just came in and slung it around, and maybe it was
for
like a
sure.
maybe it was like a 40-14 game and the defense didn't look as good, but the offense was just slinging the ball around the field.
Yeah,
I would be excited for that. The defense was just more of a known than the offense. So right now that
for sure.
offense still a little bit of an unknown, but that defense, Micah Parsons is the best player in on the defensive side of the football in all of the NFL. He is unblockable. He is I can't even begin to say enough things about his strength, speed, mix of the two. Is unreal. It's absolutely unreal. And yeah, Daniel Jones was just he just got beat up. Frankly,
Yeah.
it was the Sam Darnold ghosts. And yeah, I mean, and even if this game was less than a 40-point win, I probably would be lower, but they beat the living crap out of them. But again, I would just be more excited if that offense looked incredible. So
Definitely.
9, you're going to go 10. Obviously, the consensus here pretty freaking high on
Yeah.
the Dallas. So now let's move on to another game of total domination. The San Francisco 49ers went to Pittsburgh, took on the Steelers, beat them 30-7. This was a game that a lot of people thought was going to be much closer than this. I believe the Steelers at kickoff were only 2.5-point underdogs.
Yeah.
23. If you're a 49ers fan, or if you're just looking at the 49ers at a possible championship team, what should the hype be based on that performance against the Steelers?
Yeah, this one is interesting. It's obviously they dominated the entire game. I think I'm gonna go 8 here. Definitely saw what we kind of expected. I just think Brock Purdy in tough situations is gonna struggle. I have little faith in him, but again, look at the quarterbacks that have excelled in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Um, I will say what Brock Purdy does well is he is a very average quarterback that doesn't screw up. 0 interceptions, but it helps when you have great offensive weapon in the NFL. It seems like Christian McCaffrey ran the ball well, usually not really effective in the run game. It's probably 50-50 split, or it has in the past. He's carried the ball 22 times, 152 yards, 1 touchdown. Then of course Brandon Ayuk, duh, 2 touchdowns, 129 yards. So many weapons. Defense looks as good as always. But the reason I'm not putting it at 10 is I just don't trust Brock Purdy. But obviously this is a system that a lot of quarterbacks that aren't good, or I wouldn't say aren't good, but aren't great, excel well in. So I got the 49ers at an 8 here.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I was going to say 7 because I mean, I expected the 49ers to win this game. They looked better than I expected. Um, Brock Purdy looked better than I expected. But like it's still the Steelers. Granted, the Steelers do have a good defense, and a lot of sharp people on the internet were saying that Pittsburgh might be able to cover this game. Um, but for me, this was more an indication. It was more of a statement about the Steelers than it was the 49ers. This is a performance from a team that we expect to be the class of the NFL. Like obviously we expect the Cowboys to be good, but we don't expect them to beat a team that won a playoff game last year 40-0,
Yeah.
right? This Steelers didn't make the playoffs and the 49ers were in the NFC Championship game. It's just a little bit more expected from the Niners. So I'm going to go a 7. So it seems like we are on the same page here. Um, Next game, we will talk about the Miami Dolphins. They had a big time matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers, two teams that I think are very similar in a lot of ways, kind of overlooked in their division, a lot of talent, high flying offenses. They matched up in week 1, and the Dolphins on the road got the victory 36-34. Sam, if you're a Dolphins fan, How excited should you be about these Dolphins? What should the hype be?
Yeah, I'm slating the Dolphins at like a 6. Obviously got a big win um over the Chargers, kind of one of the top teams in the NFL, but obviously not known for their stout defense. It was high scoring affair both sides. Um the reason I put them at a 6 is their defense didn't look good. But that was kind of expected. What concerns me most is Tua had to throw the ball 45 times to get a dub, 466 yards. Truly impressive, don't get me wrong, but you need some production from that running game. Raheem Mostert, 37 yards on 10 carries. Eric Azukama, two carries, 17 yards. That's kind of my big concern with the Dolphins. I mean, but when you have guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you can kind of shy away from the run game, but you have to have some sort of it. And then defense not playing it tremendous. But that again, we kind of knew that coming in. So I got the Dolphins coming here at 6. Love their passing game. Have a lot of concerns with that run game, though.
Yeah, actually, this is good. This is healthy debate because I think we're going to have our first disagreement here. For these Dolphins, I'm giving out a 10. I am all in
Really?
Dolphins right now. And there are a few things at play here. You mentioned their passing game. Their passing game might be the best in the NFL right now. Tyreek Hill with an all-time performance from the wide receiver position. Tua putting in 466, as you said, and 3 touchdowns. Breaking news: I think I have officially joined TuaNon. I am going to be going to war for Tua now. Of course, the looming question: can he stay healthy? But you get a huge win on the road against the Chargers. Now, I know there are concerns about their defense. The Chargers offense is pretty good, one of the better in the NFL, and they do have reinforcements on the way. And Jalen Ramsey is coming back
Yeah.
around October, November, somewhere around there from a torn meniscus, I believe. So they have reinforcements coming, and
How about that?
happened in their division is a big thing too. Their division got a whole lot easier overnight. He had one team who didn't look very good. Another team lost one of the most important position on the football field. So it looks like right now that they may be the best team in the division. Obviously, that's a slight overreaction to what we saw, but things got a lot more favorable towards the Dolphins in a game they didn't even play in.
Yeah.
And that offense, every bit as advertised, and got a huge win on the road. So I think things are lining up splendidly
Yeah.
for the Dolphins. Of course, that is maybe a huge overreaction, but that's what we do here. To uh, we overreact to week 1 on anything really.
Yeah.
So, so I'm
Yeah.
all
I
in.
don't hate that actually. Um, I mean, yeah, their defense. I forgot their defense is missing a lot of pieces. Jalen Ramsey, obviously, kind of being that guy on their defense. To be honest, here, I didn't take a deep dive. I didn't realize that the Chargers scored with their running game, not their passing game. Some we're not used to seeing. Um,
Uh,
I, Herbert only had 1 touchdown throwing the ball, and one Eckler had 1. Josh Kelly had 1, and Herbert had 1 running. So that's something we're not used to seeing, and so run defense is a concern for Dolphins. It looks like, but yeah, I see where you're coming from with that 10.
yeah, and I think if things were ended up a little differently, some of their uh, other division mates, maybe they'd be at like a 7 or 8. But yeah, with the way things lined up on that front, things are looking. The outlook on the Dolphins right now, in my opinion, is rather good. On to our next team. They opened up at home and welcomed in an AFC favorite. The Cincinnati Bengals traveled to Cleveland to take on the Browns, and Cleveland came out with the 21-point win. They won 24-3 over the Bengals. Sam, if you are a Browns fan, how excited should you be after this week?
I mean, yeah, I'm electric right now. I'm going with a 9 here, Tanner. Bengals were a Super Bowl contender going into this game. Um, and Brown just whooped that ass. I mean, score is 24-3. We're not looking at a Cowboys Giants type game, but I don't see I'm not surprised at that. I mean, Joe Burrow played like shit. Freaking Browns defense whooped that ass. He only had 82 yards, 14 for 31. Now I know what you're gonna say. He was rusty against the Steelers last year. Okay, he was, but he wasn't throwing it 82 yards. I think that's like the lowest in his career. Um, Literally nothing could go right for the Bengals. Deshaun Watson looked good, not overly impressive, but did enough to get the job done. Nick Chubb did what we expected, right? But that defense, again, playing phenomenal, holding a Super Bowl contender. I still think they're a Super Bowl contender, and gain a huge upset over division rival. So I mean, their defense just looked really good. Held the Bengals to just 6 first downs, 2.6 yards per play, 2 for 15 from third down. Yeah, they just beat that ass. I wasn't very high on Cleveland coming into this season, so gain a convincing win over a Super Bowl contender shot them up for me on the excitement meter for sure.
I like it high on the Browns. I'm going to be a little bit less high on the Browns. I think I'm going to go a 7, because it's definitely impressive, and the Cleveland Browns don't win this game last year. There was clear improvement on the side of the Browns, which is what you want to see. I mean, Deshaun Watson had a brutal season last year. Look, he's already looking better. I mean, he hadn't played football in a while, so he's back into the swing of things now. He's got a season under his belt. That defense, man, they looked nasty. They look like they can compete with anybody. I mean, Myles Garrett is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, but of course, they also brought in Zadarius Smith, who was with Minnesota last year, and he was very productive for Minnesota a year ago. He looks like he can still play. Those two on the end, off the edge, that's going to make it really tough on opposing quarterbacks. And they got some big guys in the middle, like Dalvin Tomlinson, who was also on Minnesota last year and who was also a beast for Minnesota in that run game. But yeah, again, I just think this is a situation where, to me, I'm focusing more on Cincinnati from this game than I am Cleveland. But again, this is a game that Cleveland loses last year, and you saw key signs of improvement, namely from the quarterback and from the defense. And when you have a good defense, that can carry you very far. So I'm a 7 right now if I'm the Browns, and certainly reason for optimism there.
Yeah.
But we will continue on, and let's take a look at a quarterback making his debut as the franchise quarterback, Jordan Love. Of course, he had started for the Packers before, but this is his first start officially as QB1, as the future, and he did not disappoint. The Packers ended up going to Chicago, beat them 38-20. Sam, if you're a Packers fan, how excited should you be?
This one's interesting. I'm gonna give it a mid 5. I mean, you played the Bears. Like, come on, you know. But let's be honest, the Packers were not a team a lot of people had high hopes on. They thought they were gonna be bottom tier of the NFL. no one really loved Jordan Love. I mean, they were few and far between, it seemed like. I know I was on the Jordan Love ain't that good. There's no way they're gonna have three great quarterbacks. And he walked in there and looked good. No sugarcoating that. 15, 27, 204 yards, three touchdowns. And again, another important stat, no turnovers. So the Packers are just an interesting team. Like, I don't know what to think about them. They played the Bears, convincing to win. But it isn't like a game which we'll touch on here in a bit. Franchise or a quarterback defining win for Jordan Love. I mean, it's again the Bears. But with season expectations, you got to improve the fan morale a little bit. So I got 5. I'm not overly excited if I'm a Packers fan, but I like what I saw from the franchise quarterback for sure.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page on this one. I may bump it up one, but I'm in that 5-6 range. I guess I'll give it a 6 just so we can be a little different here. But again, this is just a situation where I'm looking at the other team. Jordan Love, like this again, he played well. It's certainly better than playing bad. I just don't know how much I take from it against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And they were one of the worst defenses a year ago. Sam, do you know how many times Jordan Love was pressured in this game today throughout the entirety of the game? How many pressures do you think the Bears defense had against Jordan Love?
It's either really high, but since he played so well, I'm gonna go like 3.
6.
Okay. Yeah, that's
6.
not a lot.
If like if you pressure like 10, 15 times, like that's below average. He
Yeah.
got pressured 6 times.
Jesus.
I'm fairly certain that you can throw Deshaun Kaiser back there and he would have been able to tear this Bears defense apart. Nathan Peterman could have torn this Bears defense apart. Now, of course, some of that does go to the Packers offensive line. It's a very good offensive line, probably the second best in the league behind the Eagles. But specifically in terms of quarterback play, it's just everyone in the world I think was overrating the Bears. Sure, they made some upgrades on defense. It will be a better defense than it was last year. It's still bad. They still do not pressure the quarterback whatsoever. And yeah, and he had all day to throw, and that will not always be the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm looking at in the Packers. That defense, I mean, it should be an above average defense. They play like it. 20 points to the Bears is, okay. The Bears offense is not terrible. They can score some points. But yeah, again, I'm encouraged if I'm a Packer fan. Jordan Love looked good. Again, certainly better than looking bad. You won the
Yeah.
game, certainly better than losing the game. But I'm just tapering my expectations
Yeah.
if I am a Packer fan there. And
Definitely.
then to wrap up the excitement meter before looking on the other side of things, we are going to go with, I don't know, is this the most impressive win of the weekend? It might be.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's the Detroit Lions. Of course, we got to work in the Lions. They traveled to Kansas City. Granted, Kansas City did not have Travis Kelce. They did not have Chris Jones. But the Lions on the road against the defending champions took them down 21-20. Sam, if you were a Lions fan, how excited should you be?
Yeah. I'm at like 8, I think. Big win, obviously, over Super Bowl, kind of spoiling their banner night. Obviously, Travis Kelce being out was a bigger problem than we thought. The reason it's not higher for me is we saw Patrick Mahomes play one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. A lot of drops by receivers. Shout outs Kadarius Tony. But what kind of boosted up for me is that NFC North is wide open, and
Mhm.
I think the Lions are. I think they are the best team in that division. but yes, great win, but I wasn't overly impressed. I didn't see like giant improvement from last year. But I love Dan Campbell. He's shout out Sam Laporte. He killed it. That game played some big plays, but I wasn't like, oh my god, the Lions beat the Chiefs. No way. So that's why I'm like at an 8. It's great win, a great way to kick off the season, especially in that division.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a fair take. Again, we're on the same page. I'm going to go a 9 here. And the reason it's not a 10 is because no Travis Kelce, no Chris Jones. Those are their second and third best players, respectfully. So when you're missing two of your top three, of course, it's going to take away from the win a little bit. But I think I would argue that their defense, I know there was a lot of drop passes, which, you can't always count on. But that that Lions defense was kind of brutal last year. They let up a lot of points, and Jared Goff was seemingly had to sling the ball around the field to even catch up. And
Yeah,
their defense looks better. And I think we were talking about it during the game. If these Lions get a good defense along with that offense, they are a very scary team. So I think
yeah,
that offense improved, or excuse me, that defense improved. That offense is as good as we expect it to be. So I'm going to go a 9 here. And again, the injuries for the Chiefs are the only reason why it's not a 10. But if you're a Lions fan, I think you pretty clearly cemented yourself after week one, the best team in the division, as you said, Sam. But the division right now, of course, is pretty wide open.
yeah,
Should we take a look on the negative side of
yeah.
things?
Let's do
Yep.
it.
Let's jump into it. This is going to be our panic meter. Yeah, I mean, it's going to work the same way. We're just going to talk about how panicked should the fan base be after the week one loss or poor performance or what have you. So we'll start right where we left off, Sam. We talked about the Lions. What about the Chiefs, man? They have this homecoming. They lose the game. How panicked should you be if you're a Chiefs fan?
Yeah, this asked me this a couple days ago. I think my number's a little higher. But I'm at a 1, Tanner. I'm not concerned at all as a Chiefs fan. Um, Brand new wide receiving core, minus Kadarius Toney, who forgot how to catch the ball. It seemed like, or inexperience. I think Sky Moore was on the team last year. But team chemistry is a thing, and it was kind of clear that the Chiefs didn't have that. Travis Kelce also not being there. Hurt, he'll be back sometime soon, I think.
Yeah,
And big signing a couple days ago. Chris Jones is coming back for Chiefs. Um, I would be higher on the panic meter if they got blown out, but they lost by 1. So I think it's just kind of inexperience, not Patrick Mahomes' greatest game, a giant mixture, a lot of unknowns, mixed ups. So I'm not concerned if I'm a Chiefs fan. Just kind of that week one problems.
oh yeah, I'm totally out of 1 too. I'm right there with you. I mean, I said you didn't have your second and your third best player. You lost by 1, and I can promise you that come next week, Andy Reid will have his ducks in a row, and he will tell Matt Nagy, if you ever call that stupid play on 3rd and 1 again, you're going to get fired. I think yeah, they won't get too cute anymore. Also, I don't. Of course, a wide receiver had probably one of the worst days I've ever seen a wide receiver have in Kadarius
Yeah.
Toney. Probably won't happen again. So yeah, I'm at a 1. I am not concerned whatsoever. And you look at that division, who is their competition? Well, I don't think anyone thinks the Ravens and the Broncos are going to win it. So you look to the Chargers, they lost to. So
Yeah.
no sweat whatsoever if you are a Chiefs fan. But we'll move on. Another game where we had talked about the other side of the coin. The Bengals got blown out by the Browns. Sam, are you worried about the Bengals? How much should Bengals fans be paying?
I kind of mentioned this when talking about the Browns. The Bengals can't kind of look the same way they did last year in week one. Rusty Joe Burrow didn't play a single game of preseason, a single snap, I believe. Um, but with that being said, uh, losing to a in division opponent definitely has me more concerned, but I think I'm sliding in at like a 3. I don't think it's a giant concern. Just a little rusty, honestly, and unfortunately didn't have Bears to face or Cardinals to face. They had the Browns with a stellar defense, established quarterback, established run game, but I think it's just a rusty game. We've seen what this team can do when they're high. I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, probably one of the best trio. Joe Mixon. Uh, so I'm not too concerned with week one. You'd rather get that ugly loss out of the way. And I think they did it this year, kind of like last year. It's nothing to dive too deep in and take a whole lot from.
Yeah, I mean, when you said your number, I chuckled a little bit because I had 3 in my mind. So I'll go 2. I'll go 2.
There
But
you go.
compared to the Chiefs, right? What do you have? So you didn't have as many injuries, so like maybe that's more concerning. Um, but you didn't have them miss the game. But Joe Burrow missed a lot of camp with that calf
Yeah.
injury, so he may have been a little rusty. That brings you back down. You got blown out, so that maybe brings it a little bit further up. And I also think that their division is just a little bit tougher than the AFC West, so that would also bring it up. But again, not concerned at all. You said they did the same thing last year. Hurt. He needs just a little bit more time to get that rust off, get back in the swing of things. But yeah, the only reason it's higher is because they got blown out and their division is a little. But other than that, I am not concerned whatsoever. I'll go with 2
Yeah.
for the Bengals. Oh, new game alert. We have a new game to talk about. Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into Minnesota and took down the Minnesota Vikings 20-17. Um, not
Tanner,
much I'm going to say other than that. Do you
go
want
ahead. Take it
I
off.
take this one first? Okay.
Yep.
Well, my level of concern, I went back and forth a little bit, but I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go 7. I'll go 7. Um, it's pretty concerning. It's pretty freaking concerning. However, there's a lot of there's a lot of games left, and there's plenty of opportunity to right that wrong. However, you are division winner of a year ago. You have to play the 49ers. You have to play the Bengals. You have to play the Chiefs. You have to play the Eagles. You have to play the Eagles next week. In like 2 days, you got to play the Eagles.
Yeah.
So again, not impossible. And the Vikings certainly have the talent to maybe scratch a win against one of those teams. But your path to where you want to be just got a lot more difficult. It's now an uphill battle. And of course, other teams you pull in, you got to play. I think you got to play the Chargers as well, another team who scored a lot of points in week one, and they're going to be a tough team to beat. So with the strength of schedule you have to play, and with the way you looked, the turnovers, that absolutely cannot happen. And the way that offensive line looked against the team you absolutely should beat, that is very concerning. If they played in practically any other division but the NFC North, a division that we said is wide open at the moment, I think I'd be an 8 or a 9. But
Yeah.
the division just simply isn't all that good. So I'm going to be at a 7. Not impossible, but the job just got a lot harder because you played like crap in week.
Yeah. I think I'm right on the same page with you. A lot of concerns. I think the highlighting the strength of schedule, playing a division winner schedule is definitely not easy. And dropping one to a Buccaneer, excuse me, to Baker led Buccaneers, where Baker probably looked his best he has since kind of being the guy in Cleveland. Um, yeah, definitely some concerns. Gotta get that running game. Uh,
Big
I think. I think.
running game's awful.
I think the loss of Dalvin Cook is going to be a bigger hole for the Vikings to fill than previously thought. I mean, there's no reason Kirk should be throwing the ball 44 times. Alexander Masson looked uh, terrible.
Yeah.
11 carries, 34 yards. Virtually no running offense. That's why I'm a little concerned. Of course, looking at Justin Jefferson, expected from him. Uh, they're they have so many weapons on the passing game. They are just missing talent when it comes to the running game. I mean, Jordan Addison had a hell of a debut. TJ Hawkinson, Josh Oliver, KJ Osborne, all those weapons. Just need that rushing game. And then obviously letting Baker cook is never a good sign because we've seen him struggle in the past. But yeah, I got it at like an 8. Just with the lack of a rushing game, especially with their schedule coming up. Like you said, Eagles, well, they'll be playing Thursday night when this episode drops, division winner schedule. And then not a super easy division with the Lions. And it looks like the Packers, so, like we said over and over again, that division is open. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, those are teams that definitely look better than them right now. Comparatively, it is probably on the easier side to some of the other ones. But yeah, those are teams that certainly look better than Minnesota right now. When you're looking like the third best team, that's definitely cause for concern. You mentioned the run game. The offensive line was absolutely abysmal. I mean, in the run game, in the past game, we had an offensive lineman literally punch the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands. That is now his third fumble forced with Kirk Cousins. He's tripped him twice, and he was pulling on a run play, and he literally punched the ball out of his hand.
Yikes.
He's getting unplayable at this point. So yeah, those are cause for concern right there. But I guess another thing working to bring that number down, the defense looked a lot better than it did a year ago. The offense was the issue today, which who would have thought that would have been or today,
Yeah.
on Sunday, but who would have thought that would have been the case? But got to bounce back quick because as we talked about, got to play the Eagles on Thursday, which is the day this is released. So on Thursday today. But another game we had talked about already, the Chargers. They were at home. They welcomed the Dolphins into town, and they lost 36-34. Sam, if you are a Chargers fan, how panicked should you be?
Honestly, I'm kind of around that. I'll say 4 just to be a little different than my Bengals and Chiefs. I'm not at 2. Obviously, passing defense is a huge concern. You let a quarterback throw for 466 yards with one receiver getting 215 of that is definitely a cause for concern. But we also saw improvements on the Chargers side. It seemed in the past that they relied super heavily on their passing game, and we finally saw that run game go. That one-two punch really with Eckler and Kelly. Obviously got Kellen Moore from the Cowboys as their offensive coordinator now. I think that's a great hire, and I think we saw his offensive scheme in this one. But obviously the biggest concern with the Chargers right now is that pass defense looked like Swiss cheese in week 1. But again, only lost by 2. So not a huge concern, but definitely more than Chiefs Bengals.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I actually have the same number. I'm at a 4, because first off, I just think it's a tough matchup for the Chargers. We know this team is flawed. We know their defense isn't all that good, and I feel like the Dolphins are one of the few teams in the NFL that can just straight up go point for point with the Chargers from the offensive side of things. The way the Dolphins are able to put up points is, I mean, some of the best in the NFL, and that's certainly a bad matchup for the Chargers. It's just unfortunate that another team that can do that is the Chiefs, who are in the same division
Yeah.
as the Chargers. But I think it's a bad matchup. We know this team is flawed, and you know that we saw it on display. I think I would have been at a 3. The reason I'm going to go up to 4 is because it felt like a a portion of the game that the Chargers should be very efficient in is the passing game, and they were not. The rushing game, as we talked about this before, the rushing game led the offense for the Chargers, 234 on the ground with only 199 through the air. That is a little concerning. You expect Justin Herbert to be able to sling that ball around the field, but passing game looked a little stagnant, so that's why I'm going to go up to a 4. It felt like that should be a strength of this team, but I'm not too worried about it. Again, this is just one of those where I take away more from the Dolphins than I do the Chargers.
Yeah.
So we are on the same page for the Chargers. Now let's get into some good ones. Sam, we had the craziest Monday Night Football game. The Jets ended up winning in overtime 22-16, but of course it was at what cost? We're going to talk about both these teams back to back, but we'll start with the losing team. Sam, if you are the Bengals, what is
The Bills.
you're the Bills, what is
I got you.
what's your panic meter?
This is an interesting one. Um yeah. I think I'm gonna go a 7 here. Um I think a lot can be fixed with this game. It seems they shot themselves in the foot about 4,000 times. Josh Allen, 3 interceptions. Bruh.
All of this player
Yeah.
and a fumble.
Yeah. Maybe I'm gonna drop it to 6 because that is definitely concerning. Um, Josh Allen was
He's awful.
in was awful, and 3 years ago he was considered one of the best quarterbacks in the. It was him or Patrick Mahomes. Who you taking? Um, and over the past year, honestly, he has been making a lot of dumb-headed plays, trying to make a play, but instead of just moving on to the next play, he tries to make it so hard, and it ends up shooting him in the foot. This game was so weird, man. Definitely a lot of concerns with Josh. I think the biggest concern is Josh Allen. If we don't see all those interceptions, fumbles, I think the Bills run away with this one. I don't even think it's really close. But shooting themselves in the foot is something you can fix. But definitely a bit of concern. I think I said, what did I say, 6 or 7? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the 6.
7 and you moved it
Yeah.
down to 6. I'm gonna go back to your original. I'm gonna go with 7, and the reason I think I'm gonna go a little bit higher than you is yes, I totally agree. When I say they're a 7, the Bills are a 7. I really mean Josh Allen is a 7.
Yeah.
Like really, pretty much the entire reason we're talking about this game is 17, right? Their
Yeah.
defense looked pretty good. Their special team, sure, they gave up they gave up that punt return, but their special teams didn't look specifically bad. It was literally Josh Allen not taking care of the football. And the reason I'm going to go a little bit higher than you is because this is a problem. He did it last year. He was incredibly loose with the football a year ago. He was turning the ball over like it was nobody's business, and it led to the Bills being worse than we thought they were going to be and an early exit in the playoffs. So because it's a trend, I'm going to go a little bit higher. But again, you're right. It's totally self-inflicted. It's totally fixable. It's just a little bit of a trend, and that is scary to me.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
let's look on the other side of the coin. The New York Jets, of course, on their big day, Aaron Rodgers on the fourth snap tears his Achilles. You can totally see the tendon rip off the bone in the replay. Um, they won the game 22-16, but of course they lost Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the season. If you're a Jets fan, how panicked are you, Sam?
You know, most people, I think, just looking at the surface would do a 10 with the loss of Aaron Rodgers. Personally, I'm at an 8. I think they have the best defense. Their defense is phenomenal. They'll keep them in games. Um, but obviously, not having Aaron Rodgers is a big concern. They have weapons. They have Brees Hall. They have Dalvin Cook. They have Garrett Wilson. A lot of weapons on that team. Um, and gain a big win over a division rival in week 1 is a big win. But obviously, not having a quarterback is definitely cause for concern. But because the surrounding groups on that team are so good, that's the reason it's not a 10, to be honest with you, Tanner. But goddamn, Zach Wilson looks god awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a 9. I'm right there with you. The team is so talented. That defense is unbelievably good. Uh, but yeah, it's really concerning. I mean, you played Zach Wilson. You're back to last year. Last year they had an awesome defense. Last year they had weapons on weapons on weapons. They just didn't have a quarterback. And last year's team failed to make the playoffs. So that is obviously very much a cause for concern. However, that defense is really, really good. I just feel like obviously I don't have a ton of love for Aaron Rodgers. I don't have. I just if you're a Jets fan, I'm sick to my stomach for
You're
you.
cursed.
Truly am. I truly am sick to my stomach for you. Because chances are you're also a Mets fan and you watched Edwin Diaz tear his knee apart jumping around. Now you watch Rodgers tear his Achilles on a standard tackle. But I mean, and then just the way the game finished, you saw firsthand exactly like your team is every bit as good as advertised. You have a Super Bowl roster and you watched it just disappear in front of your hands because Aaron Rodgers got a freak injury.
Yeah.
I'm sick to my stomach for Jets fans, but for the Jets, I'm at a 9. I
Yeah.
feel they said they were going to add another quarterback, but it was Zach Wilson's team. I think that's a big mistake. I think you can't waste another year of a Super Bowl caliber roster.
Before we move on, I saw a fun question. What quarterback would you love to see compete for a job quarterback position on the Jets? Because I've seen some good ones.
What are some of the good ones?
I've seen Chad Henne.
Okay.
I've seen Colin Kaepernick.
Okay. Yeah.
I've seen Cam Newton. I've seen Tim Tebow. I've seen Philip Rivers. I've seen Matt Ryan. I've seen a lot of guys, but ideal situation, you get to choose who comes in and competes for that quarterback spot. Who you want?
I think I'm going to go Cam Newton here. Like I like that. I've always been a Cam Newton guy. He was pretty brutal when he was back with the Panthers. But I mean, you remember I famously in our friend group, I famously chose the Patriots to win more games than the Buccaneers after Brady went to the Buccaneers and Cam Newton went to the Patriots. That didn't work out too well. I love Cam Newton, but I just give him all these weapons and just let him do his thing. He's got an absolute rocket over him. I don't know if he still does, to be honest. But so I'm gonna go Cam Newton. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be. I really like the Tim Tebow one, to be honest. Just why not?
Jets, Sanchez.
Good old Mark Sanchez. There you go. Johnny Manziel, bring him back. Give him another shot.
Bring back Joe Nathan. Joe Namath. Give me
Joe.
Joe Namath. Bring him
There you
back.
go. Bring it back.
Oh man, that's
But I
funny.
agree. It's freaking wild that they're saying it's Zach Wilson's team. Dude, just bring back Joe Flacco. Like,
Fine. Mike White.
yeah, Mike White. There you go. But yeah, that one's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, I don't get it. But again, Jets fans, I am so, so sorry. I'm sick to my stomach for you. That is just awful, awful. And again, just to watch your team be every bit as good as you thought. Like you just saw, yes, we are good enough to win a Super Bowl, and it just disappeared right in front of you. It was just awful, awful, awful.
Yeah.
But the last team in our excitement slash panic meter is going to be the other New York team that got absolutely ransacked by the Dallas Cowboys. Sam, if you were a New York Giants fan, how panicked are you?
Yeah, it's not going well for New York football teams. I got this at a 7. Um, they look putrid. Actually, I'm going 9. They were horrible. They did play one of the best D lines in the NFL. But they gave up like 10 sacks. Saquon Barkley couldn't run the ball. Daniel Jones was freaking getting murked. Throwing picks left and right. A lot of concerns. And in a very tough division, got the Eagles and the Cowboys in there, and the Commanders looking all right to kick off the NFL season. So I got them slide at 8. I have a lot of concerns. But with that being said, how much is that contributed to the weather they're playing in? But weather doesn't really impact blocking, and that offensive line is as holy as a Swiss cheese. Man, it was it was bad.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I'm very concerned, Sam. I'm so concerned that I am a 10. I am smashing the panic button if I'm the New York Giants. There is a lot to break down here. Your offensive line looked absolutely awful. Daniel Jones was constantly running for his life. Yes, the Cowboys are good, but that was historically bad. You just paid Daniel Jones approximately a gajillion dollars. A quarterback that I think everyone in the world was like, you might not want to give him that much money.
Yeah,
Um, Team doesn't have any weapons. They got Darren Waller, who's probably their best weapon, but who's their wide receiving core? Non-existent. You don't have any weapons for your now overpaid quarterback. The two best players on your two best offensive players on your team, Saquon Barkley and Darren Waller, did nothing. You couldn't get any offensive couldn't get any of the rushing game going. Your defense is not very good either. There's not really a ton of names on your defense. It's like, what does this team have going for them right now? I don't know. Like this team I think they had some one score game luck a year ago. They're probably not going to have that again. And now you just have the financial constraints of paying an average quarterback, again, one who we all thought maybe he shouldn't get this much money. You're paying him a gajillion dollars. He's taking up so much of your cap, and you just don't have weapons around him. It's not a good recipe for success. And he's going to be constantly under duress from an offensive line that is frankly awful. So I am very concerned if I'm the New York Giants. And as you said, you have two of the best teams in the NFC in your division. Yeah, I'm slamming it. I am panicked as hell if I'm a Giants fan. So the moral of the story here is what an awful weekend of football at Meadowlands Stadium is, I think, the main takeaway. If you are a fan of one of those teams, you should be very concerned between the two of us. Sam, do you have any other comments on the segment? I thought it was pretty fun. A good way to
yeah,
kick off the NFL season and
yeah,
talk
definitely.
about some teams that may be sitting either good or bad.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way to start a week one, and we did overreactions with college. I think this is a great way for to introduce NFL instead of just going game by game, because that can get a little repetitive. So yeah, definitely enjoyed this. Obviously, it helps when your team kicks ass week one. Definitely.
Yeah, not as fun when your team should be panicking, but it is what it is. Um, Now we're going to bring back, of course, a little segment we did last year. Every week, we are going to have an NCAA and an NFL player of the week, someone to highlight who went absolutely off the past weekend. So again, Sam will do NCAA, I will do NFL, just as we did a year ago. Sam, give me our college football player of the week.
Yeah, there were a lot of candidates for me. Jaden Daniels, LSU played well. Quinn Ewers, another great quarterback play. The New Hampshire quarterback, I didn't even know New Hampshire had a football team, threw for like 493 yards, but lost. So sorry, pal. So I'm gonna go with a guy that played phenomenal, and that man is Tyler Van Dyke of the U Miami Hurricanes. 21 for 30, 374 yards, 5 touchdowns to help the Hurricanes defeat the overrated every year Texas A&M 48-33. So he is much deserving of the player of the week for college football.
Super Dog, of course.
Super Dog,
The
yes,
U
sir.
was my Super Dog a week ago, and that came through for me. But Sam, I heard Miami is beautiful this time of year, so let's stay down there. I am going to go. Of course, I had two main options here. The quarterbacks always get the shine. I'm going to go with the wide receiver. I'm going to go with
I love it. Let's go.
Hill. Tyreek Hill is my NFL player of the week. He had, just a swift 11 receptions, 215 yards, got in the end zone twice. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah.
Nothing needs to be said.
He went crazy. Went crazy.
Absolutely dominant.
You think Patrick Mahomes was missing him this past Thursday?
I'd say so. I'd say so. And every once in a while, you ever just think that Tyreek Hill was really on the Chiefs?
Yeah, so unfair, bro.
He was really on the Chiefs. Unreal. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
But Reek's going to be my NFL player of the week. Good to have a little mix of positions there. But we're going to move on. We're going to wrap up the episode with Pick'em. A little bit of a rough week for the boys last week. And certainly me, Sam. You have an update for us from last week and how we're sitting, right
now? For those who didn't listen to last week, we're doing things a little different this year. Instead of a record, we're going to do points. So 1 point per correct pick. And then Super Dogs worth 2. Tanner, you missed Tulane, Chiefs, Chargers, and Bills. I missed Bills, Chargers, Bears, Chiefs, and Alabama. So tough go. We were each entering the week with 4 points. We got 2 correct. You got Iowa and the Packers. I got Iowa and Ole Miss. So we each gained 2 points from that. So that brought our totals to 6 total. And then we both nailed our Super Dogs. So that's 2 more points. You had the U +4 versus A&M. And then I had Wazoo +6.5 over Wisconsin. Both of those hit. So we are both tied at 8 apiece going into week 2.
So we've got a tie race. That was our goal. Hopefully make things a little tighter, and it seems like we have succeeded. Of course, 2 and 4 weeks from the both of us just won't cut it. We did win our Super Dogs, though, so that does help. But we'll jump right into this week. Week 3 in college football is always a brutal one. We could have thrown some games in there. We figured we would be on the same page for all of them. So we are going to do just NFL this week. Hopefully we can get some differing answers and make things interesting. But we will start off with the 0-1 Chiefs traveling to Jacksonville, a rematch of the divisional round a year ago, taking on the 1-0 Jaguars. Chiefs are 3-point favorites. What you got?
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. But I think Andy Reid's going to light a fire under the guys. I got the Chiefs in this one. I just don't see them losing 2 games in a row, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd see. I've gone back and forth. I really do want to take the Jags, and I was planning on it until Chris Jones signed that deal. He will
Yeah.
be playing for the Chiefs, and he is an absolute difference maker. He is a game wrecker, and I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line is all that good. So he should have an absolute field day uh, for the Chiefs. So I think that defense is going to be much improved. Again, they did still look pretty good against Detroit, but against Jacksonville, Chris Jones is going to be a difference maker. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Game two, we have the Ravens traveling to Cincinnati. The Bengals, of course, looked awful. The 0-1 Bengals and the 1-0 Ravens in Cincinnati. Bengals are favored by 3.5. Sam, who do you have?
Yeah, this is another good one. I think my answer would be different if something that happened last week, and that is, of course, the loss of J.K. Dobbins. So, with that being said, I think Joe Burrow puts a little rusties on him and gets rid of that rust, and he comes back, bounces back with a big win. So, I got the Bengals here.
Yeah, again, we're going to be the same on the first two. Unfortunately, our panic meter was low on the Bengals. They're in prime position to bounce back. Everyone knows it. They know that's not the true Bengals team, and practice by practice, Joe Burrow wipes off the rust with a little rusties, in the words of Sam. I love it. Ka-chow. Here come the Bengals. They will win this game. And so I got the Bengals here. Game three, we've got the 1-0 Packers traveling to Atlanta against the 1-0 Falcons. Sam,
Who would
talk to
have
me.
thought this would be the battle of the undefeateds? To be honest, there, I really liked what I saw from the Falcons.
Me too.
Um, so I'm going the Falcons here. I
I
like
like
what
it.
Desmond Ritter's doing. Bijan Robinson's just another weapon for him. I got the Falcons.
I like that pick a lot. I like the pick a lot. I also liked what the Falcons gave me against the Panthers. However, I am going to go with the Packers in this game.
You.
I know.
How's
I
that
feel
taste in
like
your mouth?
it
That's 2 weeks. That's
doesn't
two
feel
weeks,
good.
Tanner.
Doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. It feels gross. It tastes like rotten cheese. However,
Well,
I
you like fried cheese, so.
if it's blue cheese, I like it. But back on topic. I'm going to go with the Packers. I like that offensive line. I think they're going to do good things for Jordan Love. Again, Falcons are another team that I think are going to have a little bit of difficulty pressuring the quarterback. Hopefully, I guess not hopefully, but hopefully for the pick, not hopefully for my fandom, Christian Watson can get healthy and he can get back on the field, and that will only make things easier for Jordan Love. But I'm going to go with the Packers on the road here.
Yeah.
So that'll bring us to the next game. The Dolphins, fresh off of that victory over the Chargers, they travel to Foxborough to take on the Patriots, who put together a fight against Philadelphia. Sam, this game is in Foxborough. Who do you have? The Dolphins are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, this one's interesting. Obviously, we talked about Dolphins at length. A lot of concerns with their rushing game. Um, Patriots coming off a tough fought battle against the Eagles. They're gonna be tired. And honestly, I just don't trust Mac Jones. Uh, as some people do, as much as some people do. This might be a cop out, but I got the Dolphins here. I just think they got more weapons, more experience, but it might be a shootout. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I can tell you one thing. If it does get into a shootout, the Patriots are one of those teams that cannot score with the Dolphins. And if this game was in November or December, I don't know how the Dolphins play. How they'd look outdoors in Foxborough,
Yeah.
cold weather, seeing your breath. But we're in September. It'll be warm. The ball will be flying through the air, and that, of course, is a huge advantage for the Dolphins. I can't give them a 10 on the height meter and then not pick them. So I'm also going to go with the Dolphins. Next game we have on the list, we have the Browns, who looked absolutely awesome against the Bengals. They travel to Pittsburgh, take on the Steelers, who, of course, got mollywopped by the 49ers. We got all teams in the AFC North represented in this episode of Pick'em. But this game, Sam, who do you have?
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with the Steelers. They kind of got whomped. Unfortunately, they have another whomping coming. I got the Browns here.
Interesting. Are you calling a whomping?
I think I am.
He's calling a whomping. Well, I'm actually going to go with the home team. Give me the Steelers here. I'm predicting a bounce back or more of bounce back for the Steelers, but I think more of a hangover for the Browns. I think, their first road game of the season, they're going in to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is going to be rather raucous. Of course, division game, in the AFC North, those division games get crazy. Also, the fans know that, hey, we got destroyed last game. We will have to bring it to, I'm calling it Heinz Field, whatever it's called now. But we'll have to bring it to Heinz Field, and I think we'll get a bounce back from the Steelers. I've got the Steelers winning this game at home. That only leaves one thing in the episode, Sam. We went 2-0 in our Superdog. That bum Keegs lost his. The OGs, of course, get theirs right. I guess we're all OGs, but the current guys, of course, get theirs right. But Sam, we all need a Superdog from you. Who do you have this week?
Yeah, this is an interesting pick. I'm actually going against my team, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I got Western Michigan covering the 28.5, considering Iowa has yet to score 28 points. I got Western Michigan plus 28.5.
Yeah, let alone they get to score 25, let alone 28. Of course, that 25 is the Brian Ferentz magic number. I can't really say anything. How can I say anything against that? They've never covered 25 in their or 28.5 in their lives. But I am gonna go with a different team, of course. I am gonna go with the Arizona State Sun Devils. They are getting 4 points at home against Fresno State. Fresno right now is 2-0. They took down Purdue in week 1 and looked good doing so. However, Eastern Washington, again, a pretty good team Eastern Washington is, but they went to double overtime there. And I love home dogs. I do.
Yeah.
Talked on this show before. And I think Arizona State at home, welcoming in Fresno, the Sun Devils have a good shot at getting this win here and certainly covering at +4. So give me Arizona State.
There you go. I like it.
Guess what? That is the end of the episode. We have finally made it a little bit shorter than last week with only 2 of us, a little bit less to talk about with a little bit of a lackluster college football slate and this new segment we tried out consolidated things a little bit. So hopefully it's an easier listen this time, a little bit shorter, and you can get along with your day as well. But thank you so much for listening to episode 101. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at crunchtime_pod. Of course, follow us on YouTube. Unfortunately, the YouTube videos probably aren't as good for the past few weeks, considering we're on Zoom. But again, next week, we'll be back in person in our studio, aka our apartment. So, of course, be on the lookout for that. But our YouTube, you can find at Crunch Time with the N326 Duo. You can follow Sam at.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at SamGodsey29 and Instagram Sam_Godsey21.
And you can follow me on Twitter and X and Instagram.
There you go.
Twitter before. I hopefully I fixed it. At X and Instagram at TDislin22. Of course, as we say all the time on the podcast socials, and I know Sam himself also puts out questions. We always want to hear from you guys. Let us know, who are you panicking the most over? Who are you excited the most about after their week one performances? And of course, who is your super dog course, we are 2-0. Not sure if you heard. We're trying to spread the news. We are 2-0 in our Super Dogs. Hopefully, we'll go 4-0. But the clock has run out on this episode, and we'll see you in the next one on Crunch Time.
Yar.